Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to my office. And thank you for the opportunity of being able to share a little bit of my story with you. If you look over my shoulder, you see a number of certificates, and that might suggest that I have always been this very bright, educated person, and that would be nice, but that's not quite how it is. So let me tell you my story. I have always been a poor student. In fact, I remember I was a very late reader. I could hardly read. I was stuttering over my words. And my mother actually transferred me from one school to another school in order to see if the teachers at this other school would be better able to help me. It didn't work. And I remember that further on in the years, I took my common entrance exam and I failed it the first time. And I failed it the second time, and the third time in Jamaica at the time, the government was just beginning to send people from everybody from Johnstone Primary School, which was the school I was going to at the time, to Charles Smith Secondary High School. And it was a school that was in a certain area that many teachers wouldn't want to go in. So because the teachers wouldn't want to go into that area, and it was just transitioning from being a secondary kind of school into a high school. Many people didn't want to go. But the third time I took the exam, what happened was that they made everybody from my primary school, Johnstone Primary, pass for Charles Smith. So I think that is how I got to pass my common entrance the third time. And afterwards, I got transferred to another school, Woolworths, and that's a whole long story. But the thing about it is that at Woolworths, I wasn't doing well either. I couldn't handle foreign languages. I just wasn't learning very well. I was at best a C student. And so eventually I transferred again from Woolworths to Kingston College, and it didn't help. And so eventually in high school, I just wasn't handling my subjects very well either. And the first time I took the GCE exams, I passed two subjects. I passed English language and I passed English literature, and I failed everything else. And at this point, I was now repeating fifth form. And when I was repeating fifth form, my brother, who is 2 years younger than me, he was also in my class. So you know how embarrassing that is when your brother 2 years younger, and when I say my class, I don't mean my grade, I mean my exact class. I was sitting here and he was sitting across from me a few chairs. So that was really embarrassing, and he was doing much better than I was doing anyway. And so I had to leave after high school. I applied for the university. Of course, that didn't make any sense because I didn't have the grades to get in university. And I went to try to get into CAST. I couldn't do a diploma because my grades were so bad. I couldn't do anything else. So I did what we would call a 3-year pre-engineering technician course, which was basically a certificate course. And I remember taking one exam in this certificate course, and at the end of the exam, when you had about 5 minutes left, because I'm not leaving early, I'm saying I'm going to try my very best to do as good as I can. And when about 5 minutes were left in the exam, I calculated how much I would get, and I realized I would get no more than about 10%. And I said, well, 10% is better than 0%. And so what I did was I wrote a note on the top of the paper, and I said, please do not hand this paper back to me. And I turned it in. You see how desperate that is. And my teacher was merciful. He didn't turn it back in. Anyway, after this long story, we migrated to the United States. And in 1997, I had a call to ministry, a very dramatic call to ministry where God spoke to me and showed me he wanted me to minister. So I called one of my friends who was a mentor to me, Jerry Gallimore, who was the head of Youth for Christ in Jamaica at the time, and he had migrated to the US. So I called him and said, Pastor Jerry, God has called me to ministry. What should I do? And he said, well, have you been to school for it? And I said, no. Well, that's the first thing you should do, because one, how will you know that you know if you have never studied the Bible. And two, people will always look down on you if you say you're teaching them and you have never studied the Bible for yourself. So go back to school. Did I tell you about me and school? So here I am going back to school, and the dean looked up my high school transcript and he said, based on what you have done in high school, the best I can allow you to do is 12 credits. Now, you needed about 129 credits to graduate. And I'm saying, if I'm going to do 12 credits per semester, I'm going to be there at least 10 semesters. And I don't want to be there because I hate school. And so I wrote the dean a letter and I asked him, can I do more? And he said, okay, I'll allow you to add one more course. So I added a 4-credit Greek course. And the reason I added the Greek course is that if you're going to teach the Bible, you need to know the Bible languages. Hebrew for the Old Testament, Greek for the New Testament. So I added a 4-credit Greek course, and now I'm doing 16 credits. And I went in my first Greek class, and you know the phrase, it's all Greek to me? It was all Greek to me. And so I saw myself flunking out of school one more time, and I didn't know what to do. So I said, God, teach me how to learn. That's it. At that time, I'm so desperate. I didn't have a long prayer, but it was a desperate cry from the deep sections of my heart. And I said, God, teach me how to learn. And when I did that, a miracle happened. It was as if God took a tin opener and opened my brain. And for the first time in my life, I started to learn. And that first semester, I got 4 A's. Remember, I'm at best a C student. I got 4 A's, and in Greek, I got a B+. So I wrote the dean a letter and said, can I do more? And he said, okay, you did well the first semester, you can do more. So I added one more course. So now I'm doing 19 credits. And when I'm doing 19 credits, the average in the school was about 15 credits. So now I'm doing 19 credits, and my grades got better. So I wrote the dean again and said, can I do more? He said, you don't have to ask me anymore. You can do whatever you want. So the following semester, I moved from 19 credits to now doing 21 credits. And when I'm doing 21 credits, my grades were not only getting A's, but now I'm getting high A's. So much so that I was doing biblical Hebrew at the time. And in doing biblical Hebrew, I had a 100% average in biblical Hebrew. My teacher gave me an A+ for that class, and the highest grade they used to give was an A. So you can imagine what happened. The following semester, I went up to 23 credits, and now I'm getting all high A's, 100%, 98%, 97%, 99%. It was the strangest thing ever. What happened was when I said that prayer, God just absolutely changed everything. And it wasn't because it was a long prayer, because it was very short, one line. But what happened was that God heard the cries of my heart and he answered. And then I was able to graduate in 3 years in a traditional 4-year university. And not only was I graduated in a 4-year university, but when they had the prize given, it was embarrassing. I went up to receive a prize, and by the time I sat down, they called my name again. One more time, they called my name again. And it was just me. I received almost every award in the school that year except the sports awards. And I was not into sports anymore. The next thing was that I received what you call summa cum laude, which means with highest honors. And it was an absolute change in my life. When I was young, I overheard somebody say, you know, Chris, he's not too bright. But God performed a miracle. And so I want to encourage you, pray, but not just pray out of the fact that other people say you should pray. Pray because your heart is crying out to God. And when your heart cries out to God, he hears you and he answers. Walk good.